Hi and welcome back. Now in this video we are going to go through the Route 53 service. So this service provides the domain name system capabilities in AWS. Now apart from this, it also gives you the capability of performing health checks for your applications. Now there are different routing policies which are available in Route 53, and this is important. So the routing policies, one of the most commonly used one is the weighted routing policies, and this is good for blue-green deployments. Now in subsequent section and videos, we are actually going to look more in detail on blue-green deployments, and that time we'll actually look at the weighted routing policies. But I just want to bring about the introduction of the service in the architecture of microservices so that you have a good introductory knowledge about Route 53. Now apart from the weighted routing policies, you also have the failover routing policies. Now in case if you want to move over from an active to a passive site, so in case your active one fails and you want to move over to a passive site, then you can use the failover routing policy. Now just to give an example of how Route 53 works, I will just give you an example of a weighted routing policy. Again, I said we'll go into more detail in a subsequent section. Let's say you have two services, both are based on different architectures. So you have one service which has an elastic load balancer, and then you have your services on an EC2 instance. Next, you have services which are defined using the AWS Lambda service. Now what you can do is that you can have Route 53 direct traffic. So let's say you're moving from one service to another. Let's say all your users are accessing the first service, which contains an elastic load balancer along with your EC2 instance, but now you want to move the users from using that entire architecture to an architecture with AWS Lambda. What you can do with Route 53, you can define a weighted routing policy, and you can do a very simple blue-green deployment wherein you say let 80% of the traffic go to the old service, and then you start migrating the users by directing 20% of the traffic onto the new service which has AWS Lambda. Again, this is just one of the use case scenarios. When you finish off with the testing, let's say your service with the Lambda architecture is working perfectly, then you can stream all of the 100% of the traffic using Route 53 onto the new service, and then you can decommission the older service. So this is an introduction of how Route 53 works. When we actually go into the next section looking at blue-green deployments, then we look at Route 53 along with the blue-green deployment. Now let's move on to our next video, which is monitoring microservices.